My name is Dr. Michael Brown, and this is 3 Words, a bite-sized podcast about the simple and yet very strategic choices in order to become the very best version of ourselves. In today's conversation with Dr. Beau Johnson, we talk about helping others become a better version of themselves, specifically foster children. In our conversation about fostering a child, considering what it would look like to open our homes to those who have incredible needs, to those who are marginalized within society, who are desperate for role models, for love, for unconditional care and support. And that is our conversation today. It is honest. It is real. It is not all roses and flowers and tulips. It is literally an honest look at what it means to be a foster parent, with a challenge for you to consider doing the very same thing. Listen in. Dr. Beau Johnson, thank you for being here with me and having this really significant conversation about these 3 words.
Today we're talking about foster a child.
Foster a child. Now, I typically will say to our guests, why is this important to you? But this is really important to both of us. Obviously, between the 2 of us, we've fostered several children.
Yeah.
And it has been one of the most, what I would say, terrific and terrifying experiences of my life. So would you be willing to kick off our conversation?
Yeah. This is such an important topic for us. It might feel a little less practical than a lot of the conversations, because what I would want to say to anybody listening is the same thing I'd say to everybody who, when they find out we're a foster parent, they typically have one of 2 responses. They'll either say, "Oh, I could never do that," or they'll say, "I've always wanted to do that." And so my response to that is, yes, I hope more people will foster a child. It has changed our life. It has made our family better. It has done more for us than it has ever done for any kid that has been through our home. And I would say, foster a child, maybe.
I love that. Maybe. Because it is not this romantic.
It is not.
Amazing. Well, it's amazing, but it's not. It's so hard. I have never once, in 21 foster children over the course of 20 years, is what Teresa and I have fostered, 5 of which we've actually adopted into our family. But it is so rewarding. Mm-hmm. It is so incredible. And it is so hard as we have to work through trauma and separation anxiety, and just that feeling for some of them of abandonment, and obviously a variety of issues. And it has been really, really challenging. And yet we're here today, are we not, to encourage people to consider doing that very thing. Why would you say maybe?
I would say maybe from a story. The way I got into foster care, I first really witnessed you guys. And we lived here in the same community and watched your family and watched the difference that it made for your biological kids. And my wife and I, my then girlfriend at the time, were like, if we ever get married, we're doing that, because we've seen the impact it has on a family. Well, then we moved to Colorado, and I got involved in an agency that helped teenagers who were in the foster care system choose college. Only 2% of foster children go to college. And so we would take these teenagers on weekend trips to go check out different colleges to kind of plant the seed of maybe that could be part of their future. And I heard the most heartbreaking stories in that 12-passenger van with these foster kids who had never spent Christmas in the same home twice, and many of them had been returned because somebody thought it was this beautiful romantic idea of fostering, and maybe they'll get to adopt. And then they had a kid in their home and they really weren't ready for it. And the damage that it caused to that kid to be returned was pretty significant. And so I would say foster a kid, maybe. And I tell everybody who says, "Oh, we could never do that," or "We've always wanted to do that," I tell them all the same thing, which is bring a foster family a pizza. Bring a foster family a pizza. Dip your toe into the water. Get to know another foster family. Come along beside them and just say, "How can we help?" Part of our story, we've been fostering for now 13 years. We've had 7 children through our home. And the invites to birthday parties go down. People's desire to hang out with you changes. If we're being really real, it changes based on the race of the kid that you have in your home significantly. And so we've just seen it's lonely, it's isolating, and it's so much work. So first of all, just bring them a pizza. Say, "Can we come over and sit with you and play with your kids and learn about what it's like?" Depending on what state you're in, there's so many rules about things that you can no longer do as a family now that you're a foster family. So I'd just say, dip your toe in the water and just try it. And I think what you'll learn is you are very, very capable of making a significant difference, even doing seemingly small things.
I'm going to hit pause right now in our episode to encourage you to do the very thing that Beau has asked us to do, that you would bring a pizza to a foster family, a very practical choice to be a part of someone else's journey. Now back to the conversation. I'm so glad you said that, because I'm just going to admit it right here on camera, but I was completely opposed to being a foster parent. In fact, it was my daughter, Lauren, probably in grade school, I forget exactly what grade she was in, who was raising money to give teddy bears to children in foster care. And then she actually was the one who said, hey, I think we should be a foster family. And my wife jumps on board with that. And then we're talking about it. And I'm thinking, this is terrifying, because parenting's already hard. We've talked a lot about parenting in our friendship and just what it means to raise children in various seasons of their lives. It's just challenging. And I'm like, do I want to add to these challenges? Do I want to add to the hard? Do I want to add to the heartache? And I was just, to be honest, I was concerned. I was like, my wife, who has such the most tender, amazing heart, is going to adopt every single child that comes into our home. Yeah. So it was terrifying to me, but I did just that. Finally, I just said, what does it look like to just do respite care? So while we had 21 foster children placed in our home for a period of time, we've also done 10 to 15, my wife couldn't remember the exact number, but 10 to 15 respite care, where you just bring a foster child into your home for a day or two or a weekend. And I'll be honest, Beau, it was like, this is really cool. This is so interesting. I'm meeting children who've never been to the movies. Mm-hmm. I'm spending time with grade school kids who've never slept in a bed, who've never had a birthday cake. And I was like, this is real. These are real things. And then I just kind of, you get the bug, and then you're just like, I want to help as many kids as I possibly can. We are a family. If not us, then who?
Yeah.
If not us, then who? To those who might be listening or viewing our podcast, if you're thinking, no way, if you're in the no way camp, I was so there. But I'll also be honest when I say there's been times halfway through journeys when we've actually asked for the removal of kids from our home, when things were incredibly difficult, when I'm visiting children in the juvenile detention center, when I'm just struggling with so many different things. I thought, why are we doing this? It's so hard.
My story is somewhat the opposite, actually. This is fun to do this live. We heard about a need in our community for emergency foster parents. We heard about that need on a Sunday. We went and said, sure, we'd be interested in that. On Monday, the next day, we got a call that said, we have nowhere for this kid to go. She's leaving jail and she has nowhere to go. Could she come and stay with you? So I was 25 and my wife and I drove. My wife was pregnant. We drove to the county jail and picked up a 16-year-old in our car. She had a garbage bag full of her stuff. She got in the car and she said, I love you guys. We were bringing her back to our home. We'd never been a parent. We'd been married about a year. And that drive from the jail to our apartment was the best 1 hour that we had with her over 9 months. It was awful. It was such a mess, and she would run away, and we'd have caseworkers and parole officers. We did not do the dip a toe in the water thing. We just said, we're going to go all in, head first. And it was beautifully awful. And it probably ruined us a little bit, because when you step into that environment, you become aware of what's in your backyard that you didn't know was in your backyard. And now fast forward all these years later, we have 4 of our own children. We are now adopting one of the foster kids into our family. And I used to think, I'm bringing a child to my family. And now I see it as I'm bringing my family to a child. Actually, the gift of my other children having something that's not about them and being able to be a full participant in welcoming a child into our family and teaching them about what that means and to love and care for them has been amazing and exhausting.
I think that is probably one of the greatest benefits that our biological children have indeed had through our foster care journey is watching their sense of entitlement be deflated. Because there's always a sense that life is hard and I'm going through so much and it's difficult to be a teenager. It's difficult to be a kid. And then you meet someone who comes into your home, as you just described, with a garbage bag full of all of their belongings. It's just hard to feel as selfish. And it's more challenging to have a pity party for yourself when you realize, wait, this child has never had a bed. This child doesn't get to experience vacation. What's a vacation? Just some of the things that they were like, whoa, it opened their eyes. Now, there were challenges within the home because obviously then attention is being diverted from the biological kids to maybe the foster child because we tend to gravitate toward the one who's most troublesome and has the most challenges. And so there was some real costs. And I'll just be, again, honest. I want to be very transparent here on Three Words Podcast. There was a period of time where one of my biological children was so angry that we were in this foster care journey because of just the cost to our own family. And so, but we've navigated that. And I think we all have emerged better. And obviously we have 5 amazing adopted children we adore, and they are a part of our family, forever family. Yeah. And it has been really, really hard, but also amazing.
It's been really hard for me. I mean, it is very hard to have my own selfishness be in the mirror to say, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go to that appointment. I don't want to have to clean up somebody else's mess. But that's really good for me. And I know we called this episode Foster a Child, and now we're talking about some of the really challenging parts of fostering. I'd love to run at 2 objections that I hear all the time. One is I could never do that. And I want to say, sure you could. You are no more special or no more spiritual or there's no sprinkling of something amazing that we got on our life to say that we would have this and it would be easy. No. In fact, 9 out of 10 stories are really, really hard. And the people that I look up to in the world are people who walk into difficulty. It's not that it's going to be easy. It's not that you're going to have some insight or some capacity. It's like, no, you just choose to walk into difficulty. And the other objection that I hear is, won't it be heartbreaking when they go back to their parents? Won't that be heartbreaking if you welcome them into their home, into your own home, and then they have to leave? And the answer to that, of course, is probably. It might absolutely be heartbreaking. But again, don't you look up to people who are willing to do things that might break their heart? And then I'd love to hear you respond to any of this, but let me just give one picture that's been really helpful to me, which is, as a foster parent, I think about myself like we are the terminal. A plane has landed, and now I'm trying to create the safest possible terminal, right? The best environment before this child gets back on another plane to go somewhere else. And so I know that I'm signing up to be that temporary liminal space, that in-between. Now, some of those in-betweens have been well over a year. Some of them have been 8 or 9 days. Reagan is going to be with us for the rest of her life. But I know what I'm signing up for, and it just helps me frame the perspective of what's my role as a foster parent. But you've probably never heard me say that, and I'd love to just hear you respond to any of that.
Yeah, well, and again, I'm thinking about one of our previous episodes that I did with Kathy Wilhelm on planting a seed, and she talks a lot about the fact that sometimes we plant a seed that we don't see grow for a very long time. And I know for me, within the whole foster care journey, there are times where I'm literally in the middle of this thing going, was this worth it? I'm making no difference. We aren't truly creating change. And then 10 years later, we get the phone call. And we're helping, this young man actually be the first contact out of prison years later to come back to our town and to help him get back on his feet. Just recently, I didn't share this with you until now. This is real-time conversation. But my wife received a phone call from a grandmother of one of the children that we fostered. She was going through her granddaughter's belongings, who's now an adult woman, and she found a card that Teresa had left with her, with the daughter, when we sent her back with her family. And basically saying, if there's ever anything you need at any point in time, please keep us updated. We want to stay connected to your lifetime journey. And the grandmother saw it, and then she picked up the phone and called us, left a beautiful voice message, and gave us an update on this particular child, who's now an adult woman, who's still going through a lot of challenges and is still working through a lot of personal issues, as we all do. But just to realize, wow, we've made a difference, but you don't always see the difference in the short term. It's a long-term planting of seed. The second thought that I have is, and this is my number one word of advice to anybody who's considering fostering, or even those who find themselves right now in this maybe terrific and terrifying foster journey, is actually an acrostic, QTIP, Q-tip, quit taking it personally. There are so many times in my own foster journey where it's like, I can't believe this child is responding to me this way. I'm doing this because I love them. I care about them. I'm making sacrifices for them financially, emotionally, time-wise. Like, why? Because hurt kids, hurt people. And there's trauma. But I think if I can stay in a mental space, an emotional place where I'm not taking any responses, any behaviors, any words, any comments, any runaways, as you said, any whatevers, personally, I'm really in a better spot to continue to be a fantastic foster parent.
I love it. I think that has definitely been a rule that we've had to learn, right? Like there's so many things in my control in my life, and welcoming somebody else's child into my home makes everything out of control, right? I've had to learn to be a little more comfortable with things being out of control. In fact, things were never in my control anyway, so that's been a great gift. And to take things a little less personally.
Now, you have transformed our 3-word podcast, Foster a Child, into almost a 4-word podcast, Foster a Child, Maybe. So in light of that, give us the final word.
Oh, I would just say consider it. I would love for everybody listening to just consider it. And then what I would dare somebody to do is say, if your immediate hesitation is no, or I couldn't, or I'm afraid, name that and say, what is it that makes you afraid? Are you afraid of that kid? Are you afraid of what your friends would say? Like, I think that could be a really great mirror. And then bring a foster family a pizza.
Thanks for bringing so much insight and wisdom and personal experience to this conversation, Beau. Thanks for initiating these 3 words with us. I hope it's a real encouragement to our listeners and viewers. We'll have you back soon.
Thank you.
The conversations we're having at 3 words are so very meaningful to us. We hope that they are encouraging and meaningful to you as well. We love being connected to you. I hope you know that. And we would encourage you to go to dmbcoaching.com/subscribe and even invite us to be more involved in your lives, to send you an email, maybe once every 6 to 8 weeks with some new content, some fresh ideas to help you become the very best version of yourselves. Until 2 weeks from now, have a great time.